Please bow
Do
your
you
head.
think that
Let us
people are
pray.
Hail
born
Mary.
evil?
Definitely have sinned.
Hail
Machiavellian
Mary.
is Illuminati all through your body. The blows like a 12 gauge shot it. Feel me? And God said he should send his one begotten son to lead the wild into the ways of the man. Follow me. Eat my flesh of my flesh. Come with me. Hail Mary, run quick, see what do we have here now? I ain't a killer, but don't push me. Revenge is like the sweetest joy next to getting pussy. Picture paragraphs unloaded, wise words being quoted. Beat the weakness in the rap game and sold it. Bow down, pray to God, hoping that he's listening. Seeing niggas coming for me, my diamonds when they glistening. Now pay attention, best me please, Father. I'm a ghost, these killing fields. Hail Mary, catch me. If I go, let's go deep inside the solitary mind of a madman. Screams in the dark, evil lurks, enemies see me flee. Activate my hate, let it break till the flame. Set trip, empty out my clip, never stop to aim.
B-Dot, you brought up a good question because the Cain and Abel was something that, or the Cain curse incident was something that I did want to touch on with tonight. Specifically in this facet of the question, and I'm gonna start with you. Do you think that people are born evil with an innate need or want to do harm to others, to themselves? When you think about alcohol or drug abuse, do you think it's a learned behavior, or do you think it's an innate part of their makeup? As far as the Cain part of it, there was a curse that God put on Cain, and it was a curse because he murdered his brother. The first murder was committed by Cain on his brother, and it was through an act of jealousy. His behavior and acting out on it led to him having a disconnect from God. All right. So here is the curse that was put on Cain. He would be a wanted man. He would be like a vagabond that went without a home, and everywhere that he planted, the harvest would not grow to its full potential. So he would have to plant way more than somebody else to get an equal harvest, if he ever could get an equal harvest to somebody else. And that curse was placed on him, and Cain cried out to God that this punishment is greater than I can bear. Cain went on and he lived in a different land from his family. So that was a curse that was placed on him for his evil ways. Do you think that it has led to some men or all men having an innate behavior of evil within them? Or do you think that's all by choice? None of this stuff is planned out in destiny. None of this stuff is like leading up to a curse. We touched on generational curses before. This is all by choice throughout your experiences, which have led you to do the things that you do, that causes you to behave the way you are. Good and evil. Is it by choice?
I'm torn on that question because if I use the Cain and Abel example, it's innate because Cain had no biological or environmental factors that taught him to kill. He was the first, he murdered first. So to answer that question, is it innate? Is it a part to destroy another being? I mean, nobody taught him that. He did it. And whether you say it was spurred through jealousy or vindictiveness, however his reasoning for doing it, his solution to whatever that emotion that was evoked in his body, in his mind, in his spirit, was to kill. Like, so that was an intrinsic result. God didn't tell him to kill. He didn't teach him to kill. Adam didn't teach him, and neither did Eve. So where did that come from? Where did that solution to kill or to destroy come from? So I say I'm torn on that because of that, because the other side of me wants to believe that, like, man wants to thrive. Intrinsically, we want good. We want better. That's just what I want. I want to feel. Like, that's what I want to feel in my heart. But if I look at that example, I have to ask myself the question: where did that desire come from?
Good answer, man. Good answer. I think you had brought that question up for that sense of what drives a man, what pushes us to do the things we do. I think a lot of different factors come into that, bro. DOC, you want to touch on what drives a man to do what he do? Is it an innate need or innate thing that's in the DNA of us to do harm, to do evil? Is it a learned behavior, or is it just something inside of us that lets out unless we learn a better way? That has to come out. What you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little something to that. Just like, you can have diabetes. You can have your mother had diabetes, her grandmother had diabetes. You can have that part of a DNA. Some people have an evil. His mom was evil, so he's an evil person. I think some of that can be in your makeup of your DNA. Definitely, I really believe that part of it. What about Abel's kids? Do you know anything about how they
Let's talk about that, because that's the first thing that came to mind. I did a little research on that, reading the Bible. You ain't got to go very far. In the same chapter, Genesis chapter 4, was Enoch. And Enoch was Cain's son. Enoch was walked with God. He was a holy man who was actually taken by God. One of the only two people in the Bible who never saw death.
Which was one of my early statements about a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And that's a good point you make about Enoch being accepted he was full-bodied, accepted into the gates of heaven.
Without dying. Never died. And he's the son of Cain, who was cursed. Abel is dead at this part, Big Doc. Abel is not. He had already committed the murder.
He don't have no children. Abel don't have no bloodline. Cain and the Canaanites continue. And Cain's one of Cain's descendants was Enoch. That's crazy.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
And Cain committed the very first murder of anybody ever was Cain. He killed Abel.
God chose his descendant to come on up.
To go full-bodied into heaven. That's some confusing and interesting stuff right there.
The Bible is a confusing book, man. If you want to get confused, that's what I say, man. If you want to get confused, read the Bible. But, to each his own. That's all I gotta say.
I like it. I like it. I'm just pointing that out. I like it, but it's good for good conversation. I like to talk. I like to get Mac talking about this on about a file one day too, boy. Because
you should Joe Kidd, and Joe is the one that can tell you all about that stuff. But all that just went over my head when I was a kid, bro. I would jump and rope. I ain't had time to do all that.
And boy, wow. Well, yeah, you're right. But this is a good topic, man, and it's relevant too. With all the violence that's going on today, man, this is something that we could address in a sense of, do you think that that's people's destiny? Do you think that they just have an innate need to be evil? Is that something that man is born with, or some men are born with? Do you think that's a learned behavior on the other hand? Kabiz, tell me your thoughts on that. Does man have an inert need to commit evil acts in their life?
I mean, for me, like I say, it's all about perspective. You got to remember, God created the devil. So it's like you was created for a certain purpose. But if you don't fulfill that purpose, it can go awry. So Adam and Eve was created for a purpose. They didn't fulfill that purpose, so it went awry. Cain was created for a purpose. He didn't fulfill his purpose, so it went left. But it's just his brother happened to be there. God is like, to me, God give us free will. God not if God wants to, he can control us, make us do whatever he wants to do. He don't do that. He creates you, give you free will, and let the chips fall where they may. Either you're gonna take it and live like Enoch and be accepted into heaven without dying, or you're gonna get mad and kill your brother. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the thing about it is that Cain had the opportunity to give a good sacrifice to God, but he was a farmer, so he had a bunch of plants. If you burn plants, it's gonna stink. You know what I'm saying? If you build a fire and you burn plants, it's gonna stink. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be just burnt up ashes and shit. If you burn, that's why they gave sacrifice of lambs and goats, because it's a good smell. It's barbecue. If you burn that shit, it's gonna smell like roasted meat. So that was an acceptable sacrifice to God, and God accepted it. The sacrifice Cain gave, it's not God's fault. It's not Cain's fault. I mean, it's not Abel's fault. It's Cain's fault. You gave a bad sacrifice. Give a good sacrifice, it'll be accepted. But I feel like that's just what it's like a baby. You have to spank a child because they don't know. And it just get progressively worse. Why is it people that do bad shit, people commit crime, commit robberies, kill people? Because they have not been taught or they've been taught and just rebelled against it. The devil, obviously God, created the devil for a purpose, but look what happened. You know what I mean? It's like the potential for good is there, but the potential for evil is there as well. So it's like it depends on that person. You might start off good and then go bad. You might start off bad and then go good. You may stay good the whole time. You may stay bad the whole time.
But do you believe it's innate though?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like we was all created to be perfect. But because I answered, like we were talking about generational curse, it gives you that predisposition to do that. You know what I mean? It's like you have free will. Your free will could make you want to feed the hungry and help the homeless and do all of that. But you don't. Your free will make you greedy. It make you want to look out for your own best interests. It's like your animal instinct, right?
So I'm hearing Kabis, and I'm just
the only animal that can go against its own instinct. A lion, a bear, they can't go against their instinct. They can whatever they want to do, that's what they can do. Humans have the ability to put somebody else first, to sacrifice for others. So it's like you have an innate sense to be good, but you also have an innate sense to be bad. And it just depends on who you are, and it's not your parent, like you say, generational curses. It can have an influence, but it can't make the decision. You know what I mean? Because there's people born in great situations with great parents, love them, and they turn out bad, go left, go wrong. It's children born in bad circumstances, abusive parents, drug addiction, whatever, and they grow up to be the best, greatest person. You know what I mean? It's really all about you as that individual, your faith and your connection to God. Are you gonna go with God, or are you gonna go with the devil? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, G.
Go ahead. What's that?
I'm hearing his answer. What I'm hearing, Kabis, and Kabis, this is what I'm hearing you say, honestly. What I'm hearing you say is you are born with an innate innate trait to destroy. You have to try to be good. Yeah. Your free will, you have to try to be good. Like that.
But it's what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's both. It's both, bro. It's positive and negative. You have God, which represents the positive side. Then you have the devil, which represents the negative side. It's both that's there. That just exists. I don't think that's the debate. I think what he's asking you, Kabis, is do you have to learn to be good?
Right.
Or is like you just spoke on, you got to spank a child. Do you have to rear that child in the right way? Okay, think about it like this. Some children you don't have to spank. Like Marley, Coco's daughter, she don't need to be spanked at all. She's just a good child. You tell her to do something, she agreeable, she go along. You don't have to spank her. Lewis, you gotta spank his because he's not gonna listen. So it is what I'm saying. It's a person by person, case by case thing. But we are all born with that potential. Everybody was born. Abel was born with the potential to do what Cain did to him, but he didn't. His free will made him do that of his own mind. Like you say, your mind, your soul. His mind led him to give a sacrifice of a lamb. Cain's mind led him that way. So it's like they was both born from the same mom and daddy. They both got the same genetics. You know what I'm saying? The same God made his daddy, made him, made his mom. So it's like you born with both. It's depending on which side is the coin going to fall. You know what I mean? That's why I say, like I'm saying, to me, the prime example is the devil. The devil could have been the bright, shining light for God, you know what I mean, in the universe. but chose to go awry, and now is nothing. You know what I'm saying? The bottom, the lowest of the low. You could the same way. God have created us for a purpose to be good. He created us with innate goodness, but because of sin, we have innate badness. So you have that. That's where salvation comes from. You have the choice to make. You can choose to go for the good side. You can choose to go for the bad side. And like you say, B-Dot, it's not necessarily about generational curse of your parents, because Cain killed his brother and got a curse put on him. Enoch was his great grandson or something like that.
His son
went to heaven without even dying. So it's really your personal choice. Like I feel like you're going with it, but it's so it is your personal choice.
Good point, man. Good point. Good point. Y'all brought up some good points. I think you clarified your point by it being a choice. One thing you brought up that I want to touch on this topic is this.
I feel what B-Dot saying though, because you are. This is what I'm saying. We just like animals, you know what I'm saying? We reproduce, have children the same way, but we are a separate being. You know what I'm saying? That's God didn't put that in a lion. God didn't put that in a gorilla. So that innate animal instinct that's in us, we have that. But we also have our spirit, our soul, our mind, our intelligence, ability to think. That come from what God put us in charge of the earth to say, take dominion over the animals, the fish of the sea, the birds of the air. And that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And you have that innate instinct within you because you made in God's image. So you have that innate instinct, but you also have the other instinct too. So you have to be the judge to decide, well, am I going to go this way with God? Am I going to go this way and be like that? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's really just up to you. It's up to the individual.
Right. Up to the individual in order to do it. I agree, man. You got a choice. Everybody has a choice. Cain slew Abel. He had a choice. You brought up the sacrifice that they made. That's what it kind of all stemmed from. You know, I'm gonna touch on that. One offered a better sacrifice. One was more pleasing to God. Let's say that. And why was it more pleasing? That was God's choice. Like you said, you brought up the fact of the sweet smell. I think a sacrifice has a lot more to do than what it smells like, what it was dear to you. How much, like God was more, Jesus was more, said the woman who gave a penny was more pleasing to God than the ones who gave money in great songs. Why? Because all she had was a penny. I think the sacrifice in and of itself means to be selfless, to give something that is dear to you. Whereas Abel brought his most prized calf, like you said, Cain brought a bunch of crops. So in bringing those crops, God saw it as not pleasing because of the simple fact that you gave less. It's not as pleasing. The reaction is what we talk about.
Right.
Regardless of why God saw it the way he saw it, we talking about the reaction. His reaction wasn't, well, let me do better. Now that I know better. His reaction was jealousy. That reaction led to the sin. If you have fruits of the spirit, when you're talking about patience, love, joy, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, all of these things there's no sin against. These things are called fruits of the spirit. Well, if we have fruits of the spirit, then we also got to look at the fruits of the sin. One of those sins that we brought up was jealousy. You brought up the 7 deadly sins earlier. That jealousy is one of them. Greed is another. Lust is another. Envy is another. Sloth and wrath or anger. Those things have fruits and they bear something. The offspring of sin is the fruits of sin, the trouble that it leads to. So you brought up that choice. And I think we don't have to answer the question at hand, we don't have an innate need or want to be evil. But I do think we have an innate need to sin. Because if we aren't taught better, you brought this up. You can look at environments where people weren't reared the right way, or reared in a direction that would lead them away from sin. The fruits that bears is trouble, violent nature, anger, envious, jealousy, gluttony, all of those types of things. And as Doc brought up, some of those things can be handed down if they're not being reared correctly. And then you also brought up the other fact that people who are given everything, people who you would think have it all, still find themselves sometimes committing these sins, which lead to the fruits of sin. So that tells me this: it doesn't necessarily matter where you come from, white or black, rich or poor. Sin is a part of us. Sin is in this world from the beginning of Adam's first sin. And we have been feeling the repercussions and the consequences of it ever since, because it's part of us. It's part of our makeup now. We are the offspring of the first creation. And he chose to break the will of God by sinning, by missing the mark and the call of God. And so do we. And I think that we have to learn as a people how to combat that. How? How do we combat what we have in us? An innate need to sin, an innate want and will personally to sin. How do we combat that? We combat it with each of these things. The virtues of God: humility, love, gratitude, being thankful, temperance, controlling our anger, patience, and diligence. Those 7 things can combat these deadly sins that we have to encounter in our life. The innate need to sin can be combated with the innate need to connect to our spirit, our connection with God, which he gives us those 7 things to combat. Now, you may sin and you may not get caught. You may sin and you may not continue to sin. But God knows. We have to repent. We have to ask for forgiveness for the things that we failed to do, the things that we've done, and we have to try to do better. And that is the part that we have to be taught as a people, as men, as women, as children. We have to be reared in that way. Don't think just because somebody good that they don't want to do something. They may still have that want or that urge, but because they know better, because they've been taught better, hopefully they choose to do better. I think that innate need is suppressed by what we've learned. Sometimes we have to learn it through consequence. Sometimes we have to learn it through making the mistake and seeing what it can lead to in order to overcome where it could have been had we continued in that route or that lifestyle that we were living. So do we have an evil spirit inside of us? I don't think so. I think our choices definitely can lead us to corrupt our spirit, to break it off completely from God, and to lead us down a world of trouble if we give fruit to those sins that we choose to commit.
Yeah, it's life shit. Yeah, it's life shit. It's like bump the fuck out, for real. See, to live is to suffer. To survive, well, that's to find meaning in the suffering.
Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I got to get up. Get back on my feet so I can tear shit up. Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Hey, yo, I'm slipping, I'm falling, I got to get up. Get back on my feet so I can tear shit up. I've been through mad different phases, like mazes, to find my way. And now I know that happy days are not far away. If I'm strong enough, I'll live long enough to see my kids doing something more constructive with the time than biz. I know because I've been there. Now I'm in there. Sit back and look at what it took for me to get there. First came the bullshit, the drama with my mama. She got on some fly shit, so I split and said that